We saw a politician get arrested and later get out of the jail and being part of the government again, or being part of TV programming.
Right.
We saw some things very, very disgusting. And Luma is other one, and it's another one, and it's like the light. That's a problem that if you go back to Maria, you know, it's a very big problem in this island.
What up? It's Dramos, and this is the recap. We back, baby. Yes, after a little break, I am back. I am recharged. I am refreshed, and I have a lot to talk about. And we're gonna get into all of that, recapping some of the biggest headlines from probably the last few weeks, I'm gonna say, since I've been out. I have a great guest hopping on in just a little bit. Straight out of Puerto Rico, we have Los Rivera Destino, who you might have heard with their collabs with people like Bad Bunny, you know, their viral cover of Te Bote. They'll be hopping on in just a little bit to help me break down some of these big headlines. But first, as per usual, let's get right to the BS. Okay, so let's talk Latinos and how we are the mistresses of social justice movements in this country. Like, we get flirted with and we're shown like some attention when, you know, people are throwing around the whole black and brown tagline, right? Which is super catchy. And during election seasons, right? Politicians, they love to sort of play the part of like the smooth talking player type who, you know, has no problems doing things like buying you flashy gifts and maybe even booking like the occasional romantic weekend getaway, right? And don't get it twisted. The media, they love to have side pieces just as much. And they're actually even worse than these smooth talking politicians because they don't even have the decency to pretend like they actually want to be with you, right? Like the media treats us like that person that you text at 2 a.m. after you've struck out at the bar and, you know, their place just happens to be on the way to your home. Like, we're always just that afterthought. You see, over the last year, primarily in response to the horrific murder of George Floyd and just the general abuse of black people in this country at the hands of the police, we've seen a lot of coverage. We've seen a lot of talking about this, and that has been incredible to see. But it also proves that our politicians and our media only care to talk about these sort of topics when it's trendy, right? Like, sadly, us as Latinos in this country, our lives, they're just not trendy, y'all. And that is despite the fact that the rate Latinos are disproportionately killed by police is actually right behind black people in this country. In fact, in cities like Chicago or Minneapolis, where George Floyd was murdered, Latinos are actually killed at 6 times the rate of white people. That is, man, a bit of a difference, right? And it's not because we lack evidence that our stories don't get told, right? It's sadly just because most people don't care enough to talk about it. Let's take the case of Mona Rodriguez, who was an 18-year-old woman shot and killed in Long Beach, California last month by a school safety officer. Haven't heard of this case? Yeah, you're not alone, seeing as this has not gotten the type of national coverage and outrage that it deserves. Let's be honest here. It deserves all of the coverage and all of the outrage. Now, to give you a quick rundown of the story, Mona allegedly was involved in an altercation with a teenager at a high school in Long Beach. And the school safety officer warned the 2 women who were fighting that if they didn't stop, he would pepper spray them. Mona then hopped into the passenger seat of a car, and as it was driving away, and I'll say this again, I want you to focus on this detail. As the car was driving away, the school safety officer decided that he would go ahead and shoot into the car. And tragically, one of those bullets struck her in the head and left her brain dead until her family decided to eventually pull her off of life support, and she is no longer with us. And it is crazy, the fact that a rent-a-cop shot a mother in the head as she drove away unarmed, and no one is really talking about it. It just shows how little people in this country care about Latin lives. Like, I first heard this story from a hip hop blog, like not a real news source, a blog, right? And salute to them for sharing this, but why does it seem like they're the only ones who actually give a damn? Like, where are the protests? Where are the politicians? And this is exactly why I say, in this country, we are treated as someone's secret mistress. Like, we're made all types of promises, you know, throughout the year when he's trying to get you to do something, right? When he's trying to get something from us, we're made all these promises, right? Like how he wants to be with us, right? And we just need to be patient. But the sad truth is, right? This is the truth. When it comes to the moments that really count, you know damn well Thanksgiving dinner, Christmas morning, New Year's Eve, those important holidays, you will be spending them alone. And why is that? Because you are not his priority. I know, shocker, right? And as a side note, why are we okay with just being a mistress? Like, where is our equivalent to the Black Lives Matter movement? Why aren't we coming together in the same way to make sure our voices are heard and our lives are being valued? Like, it's time that we stop allowing ourselves to just be an afterthought and we finally demand that America, you have to go ahead and put a ring on it. Just saying. Hope y'all like those analogies right there. Makes it a little bit more digestible when you think about nobody gives a damn about us in this country. Now, let's lighten things up a little bit with my guest this week. Helping me break down some of the other headlines that we've seen over the last few weeks, my guests have collaborated with some people you may have heard of, like Bad Bunny. Their upcoming debut album is being produced by some guy named Ismael Cancel, who apparently was in some group called Calle 13. Yeah, some lightweight people here. They just dropped their video for the latest single, Mis Amigos, Los Rivera Destino. How we feeling?
What's up?
Yeah. Man, we were talking before we turned on the cameras. I'm actually really jealous that you guys are in Puerto Rico right now. I usually would make it out there a couple times a year, but I haven't been in, over a year and a half at this point, and I'm definitely getting the itch to go back out there.
Yeah, Puerto Rico is a little bit raining in this day, but it's very hot and very cool. Yeah,
I miss it. Well, listen, I want to get into everything that you guys have going on, but first, if it's cool with you, I want to get your take on a few current events.
Okay.
Cool. So let's start with Bad Bunny, somebody that you've collaborated with, somebody that you know. Have you guys seen the recent magazine cover that he did for Allure?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so obviously when it comes to Bad Bunny, you're going to get some controversy because he likes to push the boundaries of what's, I guess, acceptable. What's your guys' take on all this, some of the fashion choices that he made for that photo shoot?
Who gives it? I mean, it's just, he wore a skirt, whatever.
Right.
Who gives it? It's just, he's expressing himself. He knows he's gonna draw attention because that's what he does really good. So just let him be, man. I think if people get mad, I think you're the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he looks very cool. So that's important.
He does seem to pull it off. I mean, do you think though, because I feel like if you look in like the rock world, like white people have been doing like this for a minute, right?
Yes.
And for whatever reason, when we tend to do it, it's like we almost go against each other for no reason whatsoever with this kind of stuff. Like, do you kind of feel like it is something that we have to come to terms with within our own culture, like that we are kind of pushing this negative bias towards people just being themselves?
Yeah, I think when it comes to like hip hop culture or reggaeton culture, it's been for a long time. It has a style, and it doesn't really open itself to other things in terms of aesthetic.
Right.
What has been going on in the music industry in the past years is that the aesthetic it's really important, right? And I think that it translates in what's going on with Bad Bunny, and I think that people are just gonna do the same thing too. So it's a good thing.
Ivy Queen, in his start of her career, she dressed up like a man.
Right.
She was like a rapper. Yeah. And that was cool. That was her style. And I think if you want to go all the different way, like Bad Bunny with the skirts. It doesn't matter. It's his style. You know, he have a canción, a song. It's called Yo Visto Así. I explain it all in that song. Dude. I don't know why the people are so stupid, like criticando.
Right. No, I mean, and I think it's a little bit of like the old mindset. I think that the next generation is kind of changing that. We're just seeing like this weird crossroads right now happening between the old kind of guard and the new kids kind of, I think, pushing things, and people are having a little bit of a problem with that. And actually, speaking of, I think one of the beautiful things about this new generation, specifically in Puerto Rico, is they're sort of not afraid to use their voice to speak out against what's going on the island, right? And politically and all these kinds of things. I know one of the big things that's been a topic of conversation right now is the power outages that have been happening in Puerto Rico. You know, with Luma and people are taking to the streets to express their frustration with what's happening on the island. Can you guys kind of speak to it, you know, as people who are living there? I mean, put me on some game. You know, I'm kind of watching it from afar.
Our generation is like we don't have too much to lose. That's why we are in this position. We are like 20 years or more of corruption. We saw a politician get arrested and later get out of the jail and being part of the government again, or being part of TV programming. Right. We saw some things very, very disgusting. And Luma is another one, and it's like the light. That's a problem that if you go back to Maria, you know, it's a very big problem in this island. And, you know, we're just trying to fight to be a better country. And we are like, every step we do is like one front, 3 steps behind. And Luma is part of this. But we are not going to get tired of being in the street and protestando, because it's our job to do, and our social instinct.
Sure. I love that. I mean, do you kind of feel like, because there will be some artists who will be like, well, listen, I just make music, right? That's all I do. I just make music. Where do you guys kind of feel? Because I know in your music, you're not afraid to make social commentary, right? You're not afraid to talk about things that are happening. What do you kind of feel, I guess, when you hear that from artists that say, you know, even though I have a platform, I'm just an artist. I'm not here to talk about these types of things.
I mean, that's great. I mean, if what you want to do, it's music. I mean, you don't have the obligation to be socially aware or, you know, socially active or, you know, if your voice is just, you know, you want to dance and party, but that's your thing, and that's okay. I mean, if you want to use it for good, that's even better. But I don't think people have the, you know, artists don't have the obligation to be political, you know, and I think that's everybody has their own way of dealing with it, and I think that even if they're not saying in a song, maybe they're suffering certain things. Maybe they're gazillionaires and they don't give a so so I mean, for us, we've always been in a socially conscious environment, and it's just part of who we are. So we're trying to do what we know and what we understand in life, and part of that is being socially, at least somewhat socially aware.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're. I definitely see what you're saying. I don't think it's, you know, we can't put that burden on everybody. It's not everybody's forte to be like well read on things, or, you know, to have a real educated opinion. I think for me, I would just look at, if I had this gigantic platform and I didn't use it to elevate the people that, you know, are depending on me, you know, not only just for like inspiration that they can make it out of a certain area, but also to be a voice for them. Because I think that's what you are at the end of the day, especially when you talk about, you know, our communities. You know what I'm saying? When you're talking about a place like Puerto Rico, I mean, yeah, you're an artist, but at the same time, you represent so much more to these people. You know what I mean? Like, your ability to go global and to touch people around the world, and the success that we've seen so many artists from a place like Puerto Rico have for just being a small island. You know, I think there is, I guess, an amount of pressure that comes along with it, just because there are so many people who, I guess, feel voiceless in places like that, you know? Yeah,
and that's a good point. I mean, there is artists that use their voice in a good way, and I think that's how I said it's even better.
Sure.
And I don't know why it's in Puerto Rico. I don't think that Tony just said it. I mean, we have nothing to lose, you know, and I think that just goes with what's happening in music and what's happening in the industry in Puerto Rico. It's like, let's go all in. I mean, there's nothing to lose, and sometimes we have to say certain things because yes, that's what we have to do.
Right. I love that. I mean, let's kind of talk about social media for a second, because you guys are a group that utilize social media to your advantage to really gain a following and to get the attention of some of these bigger artists like a Bad Bunny and things like that. When Facebook and all that went down a few weeks ago, you had WhatsApp, Instagram, all that stuff was down, right? So a lot of people had to have a rude awakening to, damn, maybe I'm placing too much of like my business and how much, and how I operate my business, whether that be as an artist or an actual business selling, merchandise and things like that. Like a lot of people are having to rethink their business model because all this stuff could just go away and you're out of control. I mean, for you guys, how do you kind of feel? Was it kind of a bit of a wake up call? Like, how would you think about surviving in a world without something like a Facebook or anything like that?
Well, I think in music, we just I don't know, like play live and try to sell. When I was a kid, I sell like a blank pirate disc in the school.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So maybe I go back to that business with our music. I go to the plaza and start repartir disco of our music. Because I think we're gonna do the same. We use the social media, but the social media doesn't use us.
Sure.
The Facebook went down and anybody of us went crazy. We just like, okay, this is gonna go up some time, but we are gonna, I don't know, maybe have to play music in the middle of the street for the people who can hear us, but something cool we're gonna figure out.
Yeah, I mean, do you think though we all are too invested as just human beings in social media right now?
Yeah, too much. But I think it's the kids, the more the youth you are, the young you are, because I don't know, it's cool for the photos, for the memories.
Sure.
You remember things, but we're losing some things like going to the park or going to the I don't know. Actually, I like to see live sports, and sometimes I'm like in the event, and I am more in the cell phone that looking at the actual game, and that thing that it's very weird. So yeah, we are to invest in the social media, but we have I think that's cool if we use it in a good way, like in the way we're talking later, for fighting against the government. I think it's cool to use it.
Yeah, no,
in our favor.
I mean, you guys are lucky that you remember what it was like to not have social media and to be able to hustle. I think that a lot of the kids that are like younger that are making their music career and they just blew up off of like a viral video, I would wonder what the hell they would do if it all went away tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? Like if they would be able to adapt to trying to figure out how to physically create a fan base again.
Yeah, I don't know if it's very difficult to think if that is a what if, but it is it's strange.
Yeah, I mean, all right. So let's talk about your music now. I mean, a lot of people have been waiting on this debut album from you guys. You've gotten, like I said, when we started off the show, you got Ismael Cancel from Calle 13, people know, producing the album. Let's kind of talk about this whole experience first and foremost, about you guys even getting connected with him.
I think it was just, destiny. I mean, Puerto Rico is a small place. Everybody knows somebody that knows somebody. So I met Ismael in a video shoot that he was doing with Ileana. And I met him there, and I told him, like, I have a band. And he said, oh, yeah, Los Rivera Destino, yes, I've heard. And at that time, we weren't that big.
Yeah.
But then the same day that video came out was the day that Table came out, which was our blow-up time. It was the moment that we went viral. And we called him, like, yo, what's going on? And he said, like, you wanna hang out? You wanna meet? And I said, yes. And then we just had bonding experience. You know, we were, you know, the best friends immediately. You know, it was just great. And Ismael understood the project, which is really important for a producer. And it was just, you know, let's just work, let's just do it. And we did the song with Bad Bunny, and you know, it's just been great.
Is it weird though? I always wonder, because I mean, I think we're in the same age group. So to me, I grew up on Calle 13, right? So like the idea of collaborating with somebody that you grew up just as a fan, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, Bad Bunny, all that is great, right? But he's in your age group, right? He's of your generation. But to have somebody like that, it has to be like a weird out-of-body experience.
We spent like the first 5 months with a friendship with Ismael, asking him an Ile question about Calle 13. You know, we actually call it the fan moment hour. Yeah, well, like a name for the segment, because I'm gonna ask a question about Calle 13 or about a video or about a production or something, because we are actually friends. But the one thing we have in common, the three of us, is actually that we are very, very fans of Calle 13 and René and Visitante and Ileana in their separate careers too. So we are, it's actually like, it's a very good question. And anyone,
yeah, I mean, I mean, I would think about it, because I would be doing the same exact thing. I would literally just be sitting there asking them all the questions I've been wondering all these years. So I'm glad that that you guys really got to soak in that moment. I mean, even just like musically though, I feel like you guys are not chasing the sound that most people in your age group are chasing right now, right? Like, you're not doing the whole urban, you know, music, trap movement, reggaeton, you know, the stuff that's really, I guess, commercially popular right now, especially on the island, but you're still getting the respect of those people in those spaces. So, I mean, let's kind of talk about this idea of like the genre of music that you guys exist in and why you kind of wanted to go down that lane when you formed the band.
Okay, so historically speaking, Puerto Rico is a place where when it comes to popular music, there's different genres. Like right now it's reggaeton, trap. Yeah. But 30 years ago it was, 20 years ago it was merengue. 30 years ago it was salsa. Before that it was bolero. Before that, plena, bomba. You know, so historically speaking, Puerto Rico is a place where a lot of genres have become the most listened to music. Sure. It's rich musically. And what we try to do, at least us, is try to do whatever comes to mind or whatever comes from the heart in that particular moment. So if we feel rock music, we do that. If we feel bolero, we do that. And because the whole concept has a lot of comedy, sometimes the music is based on if it works for the story, if it works for the joke. So I think that Puerto Rico people have understood the project because it comes from the heart and it's different type of things. And I think people just understand that. It took a lot of time. Like I'm not lying when I say like it took us years to make people understand what we were doing. But I think once they got it, they really got it. And you know, it's a really good feeling.
Yeah, and people just need a break and ears from the reggaeton too. You know, Puerto Rico is a really big saturation of reggaeton and rap. You know, the #1 radio station is for urban music, and if you like talk in the same language of the reggaeton, you know, the type of lenguaje que nosotros hablamos, the youth talks, but in a different style, like, but in the same approach, the people are gonna like it. You know, they're gonna listen because it's a break. You know, you're listening to reggaeton and rap and hip hop and trap all day, right? And in a barbershop, and suddenly appears a bolero with the same language, and you're gonna laugh, you're gonna have a good time, and that's the thing that I think we are doing.
I like it because to me it also gives me a bit of nostalgia when it comes to some of the music that was played in my house, you know, by my father growing up, you know. And I think it's cool to hear somebody of my generation kind of reinventing it for us. You know what I'm saying? Like making it our own, you know, because I think it's especially like I didn't appreciate the music my father played till I got older. You know what I'm saying? That was always like, oh, this is my parents' music. That's like corny. You know what I mean? So I think it's great to kind of like reinvent it for our generation to allow us to kind of have that same appreciation, you know?
Yeah. And actually, nostalgia is very common in nowadays.
Sure.
You know, we see it in the clothes, we see it in the arts. So like in the music is happening too.
Yeah, and I love what you guys are doing. So I mean, what can we expect? Like when is the album coming out? Do you guys know yet? Any sort of timeline?
So it's probably going to come out early 2022.
Okay.
We are working on music videos right now, and we have a lot of pre-production, but the album is already done. You know, it's 100% done, and we're just trying to make the videos for almost all the songs, and it's a huge project, but it's been fun, and we're just it's been a long time. We want to put this album out, and it has a lot of surprises and a lot of. I think people are gonna really like it.
I love that. I love that. So, all right. So, what can anything else you want to push people to? I know you got the Mis Amigos video is out everywhere right now. Y'all just dropped that. Anything else? Where on social media can people follow you guys to kind of keep up with all that you're doing?
No, just follow us, Los Rivera Destino, in all the social media, and listen to Mis Amigos, our latest single. That is very cool. Actually, a great example of what you can expect from the album.
Beautiful. Well, guys, I appreciate your time, and hopefully, when all this COVID nonsense is over and everything like that, I can come check out a show.
Yeah, of course.
All right.
Man, big thank you to my guests this week, Los Rivera Destino. I'm not gonna lie, it is always great to connect with people from the island, from Puerto Rico, so I can kind of tap in and feel like I'm a part of what's going on over there. That is my own little bias that I have on the show. But I appreciate y'all for tuning in. It feels great to be back. And of course, I'm not going to end the show without spreading some positivity. Now, in case y'all forgot, we always end with a positive quote to make sure that we leave you feeling good. And this week's quote actually comes to us from Unknown, okay? It's just one of those quotes that is so good, everybody knows it, but nobody knows who the hell wrote it. And the quote is, "Some people will only love you as much as they can use you. Their loyalty ends where the benefits stop." I'm gonna say that one more time because it's important. Some people will only love you as much as they can use you. Their loyalty ends where the benefits stop. And man, that is such a great way to think about life. It pertains to what I was talking about in the opening segment of today's show. We live in a country that loves to pander to us, that loves to pretend like they give a damn about what's happening in our communities and our needs. But that is only during, the election cycle, right? That's only when they have to pretend like they care. Sadly, outside of that, nobody seems to give a damn, and nobody seems to follow through on the promises that they make. And I'm actually going to go even broader than just the Latin community, but even all that we saw with the African American community and the Black Lives Matter movement and the George Floyd murder and protests that followed and the George Floyd Policing Act that was written, and Joe Biden talking such a big game that black people helped him win this election and he needs to do right by them. And what has he done? Crickets. Yes. That act has not been passed. And by most educated guesses, pundits out there are saying that these policing acts, this police, reform that we've all been demanding is probably not going to happen. That those conversations are dead in the water. So let's all remember this when we go out and use our voices. And not only just when it's time to vote, but use every platform that we have, big or small. Everybody has a platform. I don't care how many followers you have a platform. You have the ability to inform somebody, to affect somebody, to make somebody think some sort of way, to open their eyes to what's actually happening. So we all have a great deal of power at our fingertips, and it's important that we use it to make sure that the nonsense begins to end and that we are finally being seen, okay? So man, that was positivity though, right? I know it's still a little bit heavy, but listen, know your value. Don't let people use you. And that goes for just
regular life as well. Come on now. Don't be nobody's mistress. I know one of you watching this right now is somebody's side piece, and I need you to do better and want more for yourself. Just saying. Now, with that said, thank y'all so much for tuning into another episode. I will be back next week with a brand new episode. We back on our grind. I am feeling it. I am energized. I hope y'all are too. Until then, stay safe. I will talk to y'all then. Bye.